Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you and welcome to Islam and Life with me, Tariq Ramadan, broadcasting from London. In today's show we ask the question, what is the importance of knowledge in Islam?
The importance of knowledge or ilm in Islam is confirmed by the high frequency of its presence in the Quran. Numerous Islamic injunctions have supported the thirst for knowledge which transcended cultures and integrated the insights of the ancient world of the Greeks, Persians, and Indians within a Muslim worldview. Throughout history, Muslims were inspired to realize the Quranic ideal of knowing God and His creation. The prominent historian Franz Rosenthal observed 800 different definitions of knowledge by Muslim scholars, scientists, and thinkers in the medieval period. During this time, the cities of the Muslim world hosted the leading pioneers in philosophy, science, jurisprudence, and medicine. Avicenna and Ibn al-Haytham made enormous strides in the study of medicine. Huge collections of books existed that enabled the accumulation of ideas and research. 10th century Cairo was home to a single library containing 1.6 million books. This week on Islam and Life, we ask, what is the importance of knowledge in Islam?
When we come back to the Islamic tradition and we look at the Islamic history or the history of the Muslim majority countries and the Muslim history, you can see that knowledge was everywhere. First, we come back to the scriptural sources, the Quran, and we can see that faith in the only one God, at-Tawheed, is connected to knowledge. From the very beginning, a deep faith required a very wide knowledge, as much as possible. And through history, as we just have seen, is the support and the encouragement for the Muslims to seek knowledge and to try to understand themselves, the world, and the societies around them. So how could we understand that? How is the essence of the Islamic message when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to understanding the world, understanding the creation, and understanding through the creation the revelation? These are critical questions, and especially now when the Muslim majority countries are pushing and trying to get more and more knowledge and to spread education. Why and how this could be done, and why should it be done now? To answer all these questions, I'm joined by my guest, Dr. Ja'far Hadi Hassan, academic and author. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
As it was said, and this is something which is very important, we can see this with all the Muslim scholars, always coming back to the very essence of Islam is to promote knowledge and to make it clear that deep faith in the only one God, at-Tawheed, is based on knowledge. How would you connect faith, reason, and knowledge from an Islamic perspective?
Well, in fact, there is a lot of emphasis in Islam on knowledge. And Quran commentators, Muslim commentators, always they say that the first word revealed to Prophet Muhammad was the word Iqra in Surah Al-Alaq. Iqra in Arabic means to read. And of course, to read, it means you learn, you acquire knowledge. Most of them, they say, that is the first word revealed to Prophet Muhammad, and that is a proof that Islam emphasizes the knowledge. And in fact, knowledge is the core of Islamic teaching. And from this knowledge, you will learn a lot. You will learn that God is one. You will learn what is in the universe. You will learn yourself. You will learn other people, and so on. So this is why there are a lot of verses in the Quran, more than 25 verses in the Quran, emphasize the necessity of knowledge. And there are also prophetic traditions related to this subject, emphasizing the knowledge. So knowledge, in fact, in Islam is very important. And on the other hand, Islam dismisses completely ignorance. And in fact, it is giving negative characteristics and negative epithets. For example, it is compared with the blindness, ignorance, and also it is the source of pessimism. It is the source of other negative things.
Which is even what was before the revelation is al-jahiliyyah, which is ignorance as a state of affairs as opposed to knowledge and light.
Absolutely.
Which is very important. Tell me something about this, because if we come back to the Christian tradition, we understand that they were over, just until the Renaissance and the humanism, something which was, we have to be very cautious with knowledge. And even people, philosophers in the Western world were saying, we have to be cautious with knowledge. And Pascal, who was a French philosopher, was saying, we have to write against those who are going too far into science. With this fear that too much science and too much knowledge could be a danger for the dimension of faith, which is with your heart versus your mind. In the Islamic tradition, we have exactly the opposite. We have to push towards science. We need to more and more. How do you explain this tension?
Yeah, and this is why, for example, centuries before European Renaissance, we had a lot of scholars who excelled, and your report, for example, mentioned Ibn Sina, Ibn al-Haytham, and I mentioned also Al-Kindi, Al-Biruni, and so on. These people wrote so many books on science and philosophy. For example, Al-Biruni, 10th century, wrote about 200 books related to different subjects. Ibn Sina, as you know, also wrote so many books in philosophy, in logic, and his book on medicine is one of the greatest books, of course.
At the time, yes,
the reference. Also, Al-Kindi in the 10th century, the philosopher, or 9th century, also wrote so many books. So we preceded, before the Europeans, we were pushing, as you have said, we were pushing for knowledge because Muslims or Muslim scholars thought that knowledge will widen your mind, will make you know God, because there is a lot of emphasis on unity of God. And that emphasis is in the Quran too. Surah At-Tawheed, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, as God is one. So it is related, in fact, in Islam, knowledge is related to faith. And this is why, for example, there is one verse in the Quran that God will raise those who have faith, and those who have knowledge, many degrees. So faith and knowledge, people absolutely will be raised.
Yes, but there is something very important in what you are saying, is that when there is this, promoting and nurturing knowledge, there is something which is a deep trust in God, in fact. Because to deep trust in, the more you get with your mind, the closer you become to the creator of your mind, which is a relationship which is siru fil ard wanzuru. So go and travel around the world and look at the world, try to understand, read the world as much as you read the text, the scriptural sources. So there is something here which is with knowledge as much as with faith. You have your heart at peace. With knowledge, you have your mind at peace. So it's all about this peaceful dimension that we have in the Islamic tradition. Don't we have here something which is a very deep teaching coming from the Islamic reference as to the way we get peace in this world and we get autonomy also?
Yeah, I think knowledge is also related to peace, to be honest with you. Because when you have an ignorant person, the ignorant person does things which are illogical. And illogical things always, or most of the times, they do harm. While if you have knowledge, you will do things in order. And in this case, the society in general will have peace, social peace, in fact, because you are doing things in order. Whereas if if governors, for example, or rulers are ignorant, of course they will do things not in order, and in this case we will have disasters, we will have chaos, and so on. So this is why you could probably relate peace to knowledge in this respect.
Yes, that's an important point. Now I want to touch on something which is also important when we speak about knowledge. Because very often we speak about ulama, people of knowledge, and we refer to the Muslim scholars, the people who know, the fuqaha, the jurists, or the people who are dealing with the scriptural sources, and we call them the ulama. So it's as if ilm, which is the root, are referring to everything which is religious, while in the Quran we have one verse which is important. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. The people who are God-conscious or fear God, or having this loving reference towards God, are the scholars, the ulama. But we are not talking here about the Muslim scholars.
Not at all.
We are talking about all the scholars.
Not at all.
So which type of knowledges are we talking about
Absolutely.
here?
Absolutely. There is no specific type of knowledge at all which Islam emphasizes on. When we talk about إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء, those who have knowledge, they fear God, it means in general. It's not only even scientists, for example, physician and other things, because Islam promoted knowledge in general. It doesn't say that religious knowledge at all. There is no emphasis on part.
So it's all knowledges?
On part of the knowledge. No, in general.
In general.
In general, absolutely. So therefore, this is the difference between Islam and other, probably, some specific religions in this case.
Yes, so let us come to a sensitive question now, because we are always talking about the past, and we are right. You know, during the Middle Ages, what we had coming from, we were referring to the 9th, 10th, 11th centuries, where we have these great philosophers, architectures. We had all these experimental sciences everywhere in the world to get some knowledge. People were coming back to two things, is where Muslim scholars were, but also Arabic language. And we have so many people who had to learn Arabic to get this knowledge and to be able to be updated as to medicine, as to experimental sciences. We come today, and every time we speak about knowledge, we celebrate the past and we are lost in the present. What happened? How come such a message which was full of knowledge? No way for you to be close to God if you don't get knowledge, if you don't get understanding, if you don't get deep knowledge of the world and deep knowledge of human beings and societies. How come are we facing such a crisis today?
Well, first of all, I think I should mention that Muslims themselves in the 9th, or probably started with 8th century, they began to synthesize philosophy and Islamic ethics and Islamic principles. And I think Muslims at that time, they did a great job, because it wasn't easy to bring a Greek philosophy, for example, to discuss it, to analyze it, and make it or synthesize it with Islam.
They even added many things on the Greek philosophy.
And from that synthesis, a new science was born. That is Ilm al-Kalam. Ilm al-Kalam is a creation of Muslims. I mean, there was no Ilm al-Kalam before that at all. And that Ilm al-Kalam, which is, of course, you could call it Islamic theology, influenced other religions, for example. For example, Judaism influenced by this. And there are many books by Jews about Ilm al-Kalam in Mu'tazilite, among the Mu'tazilite schools,
the rationalists,
and so on. So therefore, Muslims tried very hard, in fact, and I think they were successful, and they avoided a disaster. This is why we continued that attempt, and that success continued until recent time.
Many people have this impression that we have to avoid philosophy, while philosophy was something which was integrated in the Islamic history in a positive way at the beginning, and then we had tensions between scholars and philosophers. And then we come to experimental sciences. We were at the forefront. The Muslims were at the forefront for years and centuries.
Absolutely.
Now it's not the case. What happened?
Yeah, if you go to Muslim universities, I taught in some Arab universities, and philosophy was taught. For example, in Iraq, we teach philosophy. And different period of philosophy, Greek philosophy, Islamic philosophy.
When we come close to Islamic sciences, it's as if philosophy, we have to avoid that. So my point here is that it could be taught, the level of the teaching, the scope of the teaching is not the same as in the past. So it's as if today, this civilization, which was at the forefront, with the oldest Muslim scholars and coming from all the horizons. What you said is so important. In all the field, it's today the Muslims. Where are we when it comes to now this scientific contribution to the world?
We have some philosophers, Muslim philosophers. For example, Hussein Nasr in America, right? He's a philosopher, or he was. I don't know whether he's still alive or dead.
He's alive. He's alive.
He's still alive. Must be old age. I mean, the man is considered by even European scholars as philosopher. I think you agree with me.
I agree with you, but he's more an exception than the rule.
Well,
my problem is about the scientific state of affairs in the Muslim majority country. While when it comes to Islam, we all agree, and we beat this, that Islam is promoting. And it's so important that the path that you take to get some knowledge is the same path that you take to come to go to paradise. This is what we got in the Islamic tradition. So why is it that today we are not we are not emphasizing knowledge the same way in our Muslim majority countries?
Well, I probably cannot answer you or cannot answer that question, but what I have to say, that societies change, right? The structure of the society change. The programs at the universities change. The people who put those programs in the universities, they also change. So if we have at the moment no wide scope for scientific knowledge or philosophy in general, maybe in the century to come we will have it wider. We will have probably more scope for that.
So that's good that you are very positive about the past and about the future. What would you say to some of the Muslims, young generations of Muslims around the world, in the West, for example, or elsewhere, who are now trying to, they are in universities, they are now more successful, the more, with time now they are integrating the academic system, they are integrating the school system. How do they have to deal with all these sciences that are sometimes perceived as not really Islamic? What would be your advice in Islamic terms? What should they do?
Well, to be honest with you, I am very pleased that some of the Muslim students, they succeeded so well and they excelled on their subjects, and some of the Muslims they got Nobel Prize, for example, like Ahmed Zuhail and probably Najib Mahfoud in literature and so on. I am very pleased that some of our students in Europe they excelled in their subject and much better in some fields than the European, and I encourage them. But what they need, in fact, they need to be strong in their faith. They need a good foundation in Islam. When you have a great solid foundation in your faith, you will have no problem in learning anything in science, and you will not have any obstacle. So I think what is my advice to these people, to these students, that they should emphasize first on their knowledge, on their faith, to have good and solid foundation in their faith, then whatever they want to study, they can study. No problem.
Thank you so much. I think that with this discussion, coming back to what you were saying at the beginning, I think that you can't understand the very essence of the Islamic message if you don't connect this message with knowledge and science and understanding. And as you were saying, we can see this through the Islamic history and the Islamic civilization, how many philosophers and scientists and artists also were in nurturing not only the Muslim majority countries, but also the world with a great contribution. Now, their ears, and as you are positive, you are saying sometimes, we are at the top and sometimes things are changing and things are moving, and maybe in the future we'll come with a better involvement. But hopefully, the point that you are making towards the young generations is to be very involved in knowledge, in sciences, at the same time not to forget their roots, which is this understanding of their Islamic faith, because a deep understanding of Islamic faith make it easier to deal with all the sciences.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all we have time for. Please let us know your thoughts and views on any of the shows you have seen, and here is the way to contact us.
We at Islam and Life would like to hear your views about the subjects that we discuss. We would also love to hear your suggestions for the program, so get in touch with us. You can share your thoughts with other Islam and Life fans, engage in debate, and find out how to watch our previous shows. Follow us on Twitter at Islam and Life TV, or join us on Facebook by liking our page Islam and Life on Press TV.
Finally, I would like to thank my guest, Dr. Ja'far Hadi Hassan. Thank you so much for being with us. And I hope to see you next week, inshallah.